to some of the witnesses that were on our side. They were literally crucified by this man who looks like an angel, but he's really a devil.
Howdy, brothers and sisters. This is T-Pain USA, and welcome to another episode of the Really American T-Cast. Let's kick off today's show with a like and a subscribe and a moment of pure schadenfreude for all you justice fans out there.
We've got a verdict. Ari Melber.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, count 32, guilty. Count 33 and 34, guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts.
That is sure enough salve for the soul, ain't it? Now, yesterday was both a sad and a joyous day for our country. Joyous because the very foundation of these United States, the rule of law, held fast against the greatest challenge it's seen in generations. But it was also a time of great sadness because it seemed to have zero effect on 40% of the citizenry. It was just 10 years ago that President Obama's tan suit was heralded by the Republican Party as the end of all civilization. But yesterday, those same Republicans shouted from the rooftops they will proudly nominate a convicted felon for the highest office in the land. So this morning, Trump gathered a dwindling handful of the MAGA faithful at Trump Tower in New York City to unleash a freestyle, dementia-laden word salad he loosely labeled as a press conference. Suffice it to say, it went exactly like you'd think.
Other people weren't able to testify, but with these people, they were able to use people salacious.
As near as T-Pain can make out, People Salacious is Trump's new rapper name. Now sure, it's fun to poke fun and laugh at old Donald because Lord knows he deserves it. But there's more here than meets the eye. See, most normal folks would say salacious people, but not
people salacious.
You see, this is just another facet of Trump's rapidly accelerating dementia on display. Now look at how bad it is now. Imagine him in one more year with his finger on the button. You terrified yet?
And nothing ever happened. There was no anything. Nothing ever happened.
Well, that's some good news, ain't it? Trump assures us that nothing happened. There was no, anything. In fairness, we should give Trump the benefit of the doubt on this one. The reason Trump genuinely believes that nothing happened is because he slept through it all.
Again, if I wrote down and paid a lawyer, and by the way, this was a highly qualified lawyer. Now, I'm not allowed to use his name because of the gag order. But, you know, he's a sleazebag. Everybody knows that.
Remember how Trump says he only hires the best people? It's kind of like Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man Savage battling it out in a Texas cage match as Trump's ego wrestles with himself on how Michael Cohen was both a highly qualified lawyer, yet a total sleazebag. Ain't it funny to watch Trump trying to convince himself he's both a genius and a victim at the same time?
But he was effective. He did work. But he wasn't a fixer. He was a lawyer. You know, they like to use the word fixer. He wasn't a fixer. He was a lawyer. At the time, he was a fully accredited lawyer.
Did you see that? He did it again. To sum it up, Trump only hires highly effective, fully accredited sleazebags.
But the three things that he pled on having to do with the election and having to do essentially a little bit with me, they weren't crimes.
They weren't crimes? Folks, Michael Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in a federal prison for those very crimes. Notice Trump never complained about a weaponized Department of Justice while he was sending his political rivals up the river. Now, Trump's been found guilty of the same scheme as Michael Cohen. Don't you think justice demands that Trump spend at least as much time behind bars as his foot soldier?
They weren't crimes. Nor is paying money under an NDA. So we have an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. It's a big deal, a non-disclosure agreement. Totally honorable, totally good, totally accepted. Everybody has them. Every company has non-disclosure agreements. But the press called it slush fund and all sorts of other things. Hush money, hush money. It's not hush money. It's called a non-disclosure agreement. And most of the people in this room have a non-disclosure agreement with their company. It's a disgrace. So it's not hush money. It's a non-disclosure agreement, totally legal, totally common. Everyone has it.
If there's one thing about Donald Trump, it's this. He'll tell you so many contradictory versions of the same story, you're bound to like one of them. Well, just last week, Trump said he was being persecuted over legal fees. But since that story crashed and burned into a mountain, now he wants his mindless mob to think he's going to be put in prison over a non-disclosure agreement. Come on, Donald, pick a lie and stick with it. Now, non-disclosure agreements are fairly common. If you're an IT professional, you agree not to walk off with your company's source code. Or if you're in sales, you promise not to vamoose and leave town with all the clients. These are normal uses of an NDA. But Trump wants us to believe it's totally normal to set up NDAs with a Playboy bunny you had an affair with while your wife was pregnant. Or pay a porn star to have sex with you right after your wife gave birth. Well, maybe for Trump and the new Republican Party, that's totally normal. But now that T-Pain's had a minute to think about it, maybe Trump's right. After all, Stormy Daniels did work for Trump for about 3 minutes.
Where people are allowed to pour in from countries unknown, from places unknown, from languages that we haven't even heard of. We have people sitting in schools with languages where very few people have ever even heard of these languages. It's not like Spanish or French or Russian. Languages unknown.
Unknown languages? What is Trump talking about? Oye, ik spreek Atenley? Well, here's something for you folks. Maybe we need to figure out what language Trump is speaking.
Donald Trump, yeah, Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump, but no more drop box. The drop boxes are just so bad. No more drop boxes. Dickinson, Hologic, and Cephahide, they sacrifice every day for the furniture and future. That was about a rhino named Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, a real beauty.
Now, folks, in the unlikely event you happen to like anything T-Pain's doing here on videos, go to Amazon and check out T-Pain USA and book, and you'll find a couple of T-Pain's best-selling political humor books. Check them out. Well, in typical Trumpian fashion, this press conference kind of veered into a ditch real fast.
You have China with just in the last few months, 29,000 people came in, and I looked at them on a line, and they look like perfect soldiers. They're almost all male, from 19 to 25. It looks like a recruiting exercise. They have beautiful tents. They have propane stoves. They have cell phones, the best you can buy. I said, what's going on? It looks like they're building an army right in our country.
What the heck is Trump talking about now? Where would he have seen 29,000 Chinese people in a long line? Wouldn't this have made the news? All right, so let's see. Trump is seeing a bunch of non-white people all living together in tents with propane stoves. Sounds like he's describing one of them camps he wants to build, don't it?
I would have testified. I wanted to testify. The theory is you never testify, because as soon as you testify, anybody, if it were George Washington, don't testify, because they'll get you on something that you said slightly wrong, and then they sue you for perjury. But I didn't care about that. I wanted to. But the judge allowed them to go into everything that I was ever involved in, not this case, everything that I was ever involved in, which is a first. In other words, you could go into every single thing that I ever did. Was he a bad boy here? Was he a bad boy there? And my lawyer said, what do you need to go through? And all you wanted to do is testify simply on this case, because I would have loved to have testified. To this day, I would have liked to have testified. But you would have said something out of whack, like it was a beautiful sunny day and it was actually raining out. And I very much appreciate the big crowd of people outside. That's incredible what's happening.
I really wanted to testify, but you know me, I lie a lot.
As far as the trial itself, it was very unfair. We weren't allowed to use our election expert under any circumstances. You saw what happened to some of the witnesses that were on our side. They were literally crucified by this man who looks like an angel, but he's really a devil. He looks so nice and soft. People say, oh, he seems like such a nice man. No, unless you saw him in action. And you saw that with a certain witness that went through hell.
How many times has Trump promised to testify? The Mueller trial, E. Jean Carroll, the New York business fraud case, and now this. Mark this down, folks. Trump will never testify under oath in court, and he will never debate Joe Biden either. Remember, you heard it here first.
As far as the trial itself, it was very unfair. We weren't allowed to use our election expert under any circumstances. You saw what happened to some of the witnesses that were on our side. They were literally crucified by this man who looks like an angel, but he's really a devil. He looks so nice and soft. People say, oh, he seems like such a nice man. No, unless you saw him in action. And you saw that with a certain witness that went through hell.
Literally crucified? Really? We'll just have to chalk that up to the 23,000 other words Trump don't understand the meaning of. Now, as usual, T-Pain is going to shoot you straight. Judge Merchan, he has the patience of Jesus Christ himself. He took Trump's continuous attacks on himself and his family and never once lost his cool. Now, for Trump to call this highly respected judge and very decent man Satan, well, that's just a little bit more than T-Pain can take. But you want to know the funny part? Every word Trump says at these idiot press conferences can be used against him at his sentencing hearing in July. And what does every crooked soul fear? That's right, accountability. Imagine Trump having to stand before the people and hear every one of his dirty words read back to him in a court of law. You see, by painting Judge Merchan as the devil, Trump is obviously casting himself once again into the role of the MAGA Messiah. He desperately needs his mindless mob to see him as God's chosen one, sent here to save America from MAGA's arch enemy, reality. So go ahead, Donald. Assume the mantle of the Lord and declare yourself America's Savior. But remember this, being a Messiah is all fun and games until the crucifying starts. T-Pain out.